Thank you, Derek. And those of you who know me will know that I tend to make notes and then totally ignore them and take the Shakespearean idea, which is to speak what you feel and not what you ought to say. And so, Sue, can I congratulate you? Thank you for telling me I'm going to be at the British Museum on that night. I've got to get the date from you. And can I commit here tonight that in 2010 we will also launch Lesbian and Gay History Month in the European Parliament. Ray, that story you told, I think, was absolutely emblematic of what Sue and others have been doing. Changing minds, changing attitudes, that a 19-year-old can hug you and know somebody else's agony and pain and the joy of loving somebody else. That is what every generation does. And Peter, can I say, any notion that you would be, I think, put off by hostility from the man who tried to arrest Mugabe is flying in the face of logical reason. It is a great personal sadness to me as a member of the Labour Party that you did not become the member for Bermondsey in the 1980s. But can I say, politics lost has been human rights defenders' world gain. Thank you. However, I do remember we've done many things together, not always in agreement, but we were doing with Senator David Norris. It was a debate in Oxford, and we were putting forward our case, and Peter stood up and gave this brilliant summation of what it was like to love and be loved in a sauna by a person whose name you didn't know and you never saw again. And this was tremendous and ecstatic. And I saw the other side rubbing their hands, thinking with one. And then Peter sat down and David Norris had to do our response. And he said, there's been various arguments here tonight on homosexual equality. He said, and having listened to Mr. Peter Tatchell and his ruminations of what happened in that fabulous sauna, can I have the name of the sauna? in New York in the 1970s. I rather feel that in future I should describe myself as those gentlemen who write to the Times saying, Brigadier General retired, in future I will sign myself off as Senator David Norris, homosexual retired. But Peter, thank you for your inspiration. So why are we, in 2009, still fighting in Europe? Why will we be in 2029 still fighting for human rights and lesbian and gay, bisexual and transgender equality? I believe it's really simple, in that the spotlight of hatred never diminishes. It merely shifts. Those who despise the European Union for what they think is this appalling institution that takes away democracy and human rights fails to understand the birth of the European Union. It was born, quite literally, out of the ashes of the Second World War. The ashes of people's hopes, people's dreams. The ashes from buildings. The ashes from crematoria dotted across Europe. And out of that determination that we would never fight country with country, power for power, land for land, came the determination that yes, we would have a common market. And the common market was born so that the people who trade together and work together would not fight together. And then gradually, as the treaties have come about, we see a Europe based on those values. that arose from the Second World War. And they were the values that we would never turn our eyes away again when one nation or one group or one individual was targeted. That quite literally, an attack upon them is an attack upon me. And that is why, interestingly, the Lisbon Treaty, equally so misrepresented as so much is when it comes to Europe, again underlines the role of democracy in the promotion of human rights and the cementing of democracy. I've become a real anorak. Article 6 of the Treaty of the European Union states that every member state should uphold human rights, democracy, the rule of law. Article 7 refers to the expulsion from a member state that fails to uphold those values. Where do you find them? In most of the constitutions of Europe, those principles. And it's not defending the human rights of some. It's the defence of human rights, minorities, the rule of law. Now, the last election was a pretty appalling place to be. The publication of the expenses scandal, so-called, by the Daily Telegraph, is completely understood and had to happen. However, the timing can never be forgiven. The timing which I believe was there to do maximum damage to the three main political parties, and without which we would not see the United Kingdom Independence Party in their current numbers, nor do I believe would we see now two members of the British National Party. So now we are fighting in a parliament which is primarily of the right and to the right. Keith Porteous-Wood, who's here amongst us, will well remember when Sophie Infeld, a wonderful Dutch liberal, formed the Religion and Politics Working Group, and I think it was the first one, Keith. And if you lay out sandwiches and a couple of bottles of wine, you'll always attract more than 20 people, and there were the sandwiches and the bottles of wine. They thought it was a feast of Cana. And in they came, and they sat around the room, and we said, right, let's introduce one another. And there, in this group, were representatives of the members of the European Parliament who believed that the working group on religion and politics was to cement religion and politics together. And I have to tell you, an anecdote, interestingly as it is, I believe it's a correct analysis of the problems that we currently face, not only in the European Union, but across the world. And that is the imposition of religious belief. They say all politicians, all political parties are the same. Well, those of us who've been around for a long time actually know quite the reverse. But one thing I do know, and I make no excuse for proudly boasting this, that a Conservative government, if it had been re-elected in 1997, would never have signed off Article 13 of the Treaty of Amsterdam, which for the first time ever gave the European Union a legal base to combat discrimination on the following grounds: race, ethnicity, religion, belief, age, disability, sexual orientation, gender being covered elsewhere.